أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا وبالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الغر الميامين المعصومين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. صلوات. The Holy Quran is a book of guidance, a book which was introduced by the Holy Prophet to his companions in these words. He said to them, فَإِذَا الْتَبَسَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْفِتَنُ, when trial overcomes you, when you're surrounded with trial, just like the darkness of the night, and you do not know what to do, فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالْقُرْآنِ, turn to the Quran. The Quran is a source of guidance. It tells us how to live our lives. A book that was revealed to help us know how to live our lives. We have turned it into a book that is read when a person leaves this world. This is one of the injustices we have done with this book. It is a book of guidance. It is a book that tells you how to start your journey and what turns to take when you are at crossroads. Imagine you were supposed to go from point A to point B in your car and you had the GPS in front of you. When would you turn on that GPS? At the beginning of the journey, or once you have finished your journey? You would turn on that GPS at the beginning of your journey so that you could know whether to take a right turn or a left turn. The Quran is the book which contains the map towards Jannah. And it is up to us when we open this book and seek guidance from it and ask from this book, what decision should I take at this point in my life? In the same very introduction of the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet said, فَإِنَّهُ شَافِعٌ مُشَفَّعٌ. Turn to the Holy Quran. Why? Because it is an intercessor, it is ash-shafi, that is mushaffa', whose intercession is accepted. وَمَاحِلٌ مُصَدَّقٌ, and it is someone that is going to complain, and its complaint is also going to be accepted. This is what the Holy Quran is, the book that we have in front of our eyes, जिसकी शफाअत भी कबूल होती है और जिसकी शिकायत भी रद्द नहीं होती. This is the Holy Quran. And then he said, وَمَنْ جَعَلَهُ أَمَامَهُ, whoever puts the Holy Book in front of him, قَادَهُ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ, it will lead him to Jannah. وَمَنْ جَعْلَهُ خَلْفَهُ, and whoever puts the holy book behind him, سَاقَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ, it will push him into the hellfire. This is what the Holy Prophet, this is how the Holy Prophet has introduced this book, which again is going to be a source of trial for us. How we interact with this book is one of the trials, one of the tests we all have to go through, and we all are going through. In one of the traditions, the Holy Prophet said, what is with the moment who works in his shop? What is wrong with him that he does not recite a few verses of the Holy Quran when he comes back home before sleeping? The Holy Quran itself says that on the Day of Judgment, the Holy Prophet would say, Ya Rabbi inna qawmi ittakhazu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. My ummat has neglected, they migrated away from this Quran. Whoever puts it in front of him, it will take it to Jannah. And then pointing out to the beauties of this Quran, Zahiruhu hukmun. It has a zahir, it has a batin. The zahir of the Holy Quran is a hukum of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa batinuhu ilmun. And the batin of it is knowledge. Zahiruhu anik, the zahir is mystifying. Wa batinuhu amiq, and its batin is deep. If you were to look and open the Holy Quran and read the verses of the Holy Quran, it very clearly mentions, not at one place, so many different places. It uses ibtala, linabluwannakum, liyablawani, nablukum. We are going to test you. Allah will test you. So that Allah is testing me whether I do shukr or I do kufr. Khalaqal mawta wal hayat liyablawakum ayyukum ahsanu amala. Fitna, you will be tested. So many verses that tells us how He will test us. Not only the test that we are going through test, but also how we will be tested. In the story of Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, Shaitan was tested through Adam alayhi salam. And we in this dunya are tested through other individuals. Just as Allah has His tools of testing us through blessings and through musibah, He also tests us through individuals. Yazid was tested through Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam was tested through Yazid. Father is tested through his son. The story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And a son is tested through his father. Spouses are tested through each other. In-laws are tested through each other. When Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed to Adam all of his offsprings till the day of Qiyamah. When he looked at them, he saw them as particles of dust spread in the universe. He noticed that some of his progeny members were bright and some had a weak light. Some had no light at all. Some were big and some were small. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the permission to ask a question. Allah granted him the permission. He asked a very important question. He said, I see diversity in my progeny. Some are tall, some are short, some are large, some are small. Some are sick, some are healthy, some are wealthy, some are poor. If you had created all of them alike, they would not be jealous of each other. If you had created all of them alike, they would not be jealous of each other. They would not transgress over each other. Have you ever felt jealousy because your neighbor has two eyes? Have you? Or he has two hands? No. But you might have felt jealousy if your neighbor had two cars, or a better house, or a better phone. Example our youth clearly can associate them with. But you never feel jealousy over something that you also have. So if everybody had the same height, same size, same weight, same body color, same level of beauty, same wealth, They would not be jealous of each other. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to him that there is wisdom behind my creation. And they disclosed that wisdom. And he said, I created you and your progeny without having any need for them. And then I created this dunya, and I created this akhirah, and I created Jannah, and I created the hellfire. لِيَبْلُوَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. So that I could test which one of them does the best of the deeds. And that is why the tradition says, it's a Hadith Qudsi, it says, لِذَلِكَ, and for that I created the Jannah and the Nar, the heavens and the hell, and the dunya and the akhirah, and my obedience and disobedience. And then he turned and answered the second question. He said, I have put diversity in my creation so that when the person who is sick, he looks at the person who is healthy, he will realize that Allah can bless me with health as well. So he'll raise his hands in prayer and ask me for health. And those who are healthy, when they will look at the sick, they will realize that this is a blessing of Allah for me, and they will raise their hands and do my shukr. And they will pray to Allah, to me, that I keep them in this state. Those who are rich, they will pray to me, they will raise their hands and offer my shukr. And those who are poor, they will raise their hands and ask me to bless them with a similar ni'mah. Those who are short, those who are tall, all this diversity, all these azdad, these opposites, they are there so that each and every individual is reminded of Allah, and they raise their hands for either shukr or sabr. And as a result, I will bless them with my thawab. So when you take your children out for a walk and they see diversity in this universe, and they see a handicapped person, there's a lesson to be taught to our children. Why Allah granted diversity in this dunya. We need to be thankful for the blessings that we have. And those who are deprived, they need to exercise sabr, for they are also going through a test. Once Iblis and Malaika were tested, and Hazrat Adam ﷺ and his wife lived for a limited time in the garden. And when the time came that they had to leave that garden, then Allah announced the reason why He was sending them down to earth. قُلْنَا اِحْبِطُوا, descend, go down, all of you. Addressing them, go down, all of you. فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُمْ مِنِّي هُدًى, if guidance comes to you from me, and it surely will. فَمَنْ تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Whoever follows my hidayat, my guidance, فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ, there is no fear on him, and neither will he grieve. The purpose of sending them on the earth was that guidance is going to come, and whoever follows my guidance, they will be saved. That is why we are all here. That is the test. So the biggest and foremost test that we are all going through is the test of religion. This Quran is a test. The religion of Islam and all of its teachings, all of the commandments of Islam and the prohibitions of Islam are a test for all of us. Whether we follow the teachings of Islam because we like it, or we are following it because it is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if we do not like it. We are being tested every day with the prohibition of riba, for example, with the permission of multiple marriages for men. How we interact, how we engage with this law of Allah is a test for us. The entire religion, how you deal with your wealth. Do you consider this wealth to be yours? or a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an amanat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yesterday we talked about zuhud and how one can exercise zuhud only if he considers this wealth to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it depends whether you say mera mal, meri marzi, my wealth and my decision, or you get to a level where you say mera mal, khuda ki marzi, my wealth and his decisions. He decides. Even the Holy Quran says, yunfiquna mimma razaqnahum. They give from what we have given them. You're not giving your own money away. It is the money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. You're spending it from what Allah has given you. He gave you something and He told you, spend this here and spend this there. Yunfiquna. So my wealth and my decision, or my wealth and uski marzi. Or you could be at an even higher level and say uska mal, uski marzi. I feel sympathetic towards the females who have been a subject of abuse because of lots of slogans and even in the name of Islam. And you see a lot of movements these days where they want to free themselves from these abuses that have happened in the past. It is important that we all speak against the abuses, whether it is in the name of religion or in the name of humanity or in any other name. An injustice is an injustice. But it is important that we choose the right slogans for those movements. And it's also important to realize that our freedom and security from abuses will come only and only if we follow the principles and tenets of Islam. It cannot come from any other movement. It might temporarily appear that it is going to free us, but in the long run we will fall into an even greater and deeper pit. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Coming back to the reality of the Holy Quran that is before us, it is narrated that on the day of judgment, when Allah would gather everybody and the Mursaleen will be standing in one row and the Shuhada would be standing in one row and the Mu'mineen would be standing in one row, they will all notice a very beautiful creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala walking towards them in a form of a human, in a form of an object that is so beautiful that they had never seen such a beautiful creature before. The Mu'mineen would see and say, Haza minna, he's from one of us. But it would be the Quran that is walking. The Quran will come towards them or near them and it will walk past by them till it reaches the rows of the Shuhada. The Shuhada will repeat a similar sentence. They will say, Hazal Quran, this is the Quran. But this Quran will not stop there. It will continue its walk till it reaches the row of the Mursaleen. And the Mursaleen will say, Hazal Quran, this is the Quran. Till it crosses them and reaches the row of the Malaika. And they repeat the same sentence. And this Quran will walk past them till it reaches the Arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will stand on the right side of the Arsh. And at that point Allah will say, Wa izzati wa jalali wa irtifa'i makani, I swear by my izzat and by my honor and the loftiness of my station, la ukrimanna al-yawm man akramaka. Today I am going to honor whoever honored you. And I'm going to dishonor whoever dishonored you, referring to the Holy Quran. Whoever honors the Holy Quran, Allah is going to honor him on the day of judgment. Whoever dishonors the Holy Quran, Allah is going to dishonor them on the day of judgment. This Holy Quran tells us how we will be tested in this dunya through different ways. The verse that I started last year as well, and we were not able to finish it. When Shaitan was in the story of Prophet Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, when Shaitan was given whatever he wanted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he turned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, ثُمَّ لَآتِيَنَّهُمْ مِنْ بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ وَعَنْ أَيْمَانِهِمْ وَعَنْ شَمَائِلِهِمْ وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. I am going to come and deceive mankind from the front, from the back, from the right hand side, from the left hand side, and you are not going to find the majority of them to be shakir. Shaitan threatening Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is how I am going to deceive mankind, from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left. Very quickly I will pass on because part of it was repeated last year. What does it mean, deceiving from the front, or deceiving from the back, or from the right? Shaitan is our enemy, a very sharp enemy, a very professional enemy, a very trained enemy. Look at his life, more than 6,000 years is the length of his worship, the duration of his worship. He's been there with every prophet of Allah and their nation and deceived them. He's after me and you, from the front, from the back, from the right, and from the left. Deceiving from the front, what does that mean? Who could tell other than those who are the divinely appointed interpreters of the Holy Quran? Our Imams. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, said that when Shaitan says that I'm going to deceive you from the front, he says, Uhawwinu alayhim amral akhirah. I'm going to make akhirat trivial for them. वो आखिरत को वो अहमियत नहीं देंगे. I will belittle akhirah for them. One of the tricks of Shaitan and the way we will be tested. Deceiving from the back. آمرهم بجمع المال والبخل بها عن الحقوق. Shaitan says, I'm going to command them to gather wealth as much as they can and not pay the duties that Allah has levied on their wealth till they will leave this for their inheritors. In other words, I'm going to glorify this dunya for them. Belittling akhirah and glorifying this dunya. This is a test we all have to go through. This is a test the companions of Imam Hussein had to go through. This is a test the Yazid's army had to go through. This is a test Umar ibn Saad had to go through. Why did he accept the command of the army when he knew the status of Imam Hussein? He was offered the kingdom of Ray. He knew the status of Imam Hussein. And when he came back, he asked for a single night to decide. He discussed this with his son. And he said, I am seeing myself between Jannah, between the heaven and hellfire. Either I can opt for Jannah or I can opt for this dunya. A decision he has to choose between Jannah, between this world and the next. He opted to choose this world. He was being tested. All in the army of Yazid were tested for akhirah or this dunya. We'll all be at these crossroads. Even the Imams were at crossroads. An interesting story from our books of Riwayat where Harun al-Rashid sends a letter to Imam al-Musa al-Kazim alayhi salatu wassalam. And there's also open spaces available, so if people can, there are spaces available, people can. No. So imagine the president or the prime minister sending you a letter and inviting you to come and visit. How easy is it to say no? So Harun Rashid sends a letter to Imam Musa al-Kazim ﷺ asking him to come and visit him. The Imam writes back. He says, Laysa, and he asks him this question in this manner, why is it that you do not visit me in the same manner that you visit other people? Why is it that you do not visit me in the same manner that you visit other people? The Imam writes back. He says, Laysa lana ma nakhafuka min ajale. I'm not involved in any activity for which I should fear you. When you meet people, there is a reason behind it. Either you want to gain their sympathy so that they don't take action against you. He says, Laysa lana ma nukhafuk min ajale. There's nothing that I'm involved in that I should fear you. Wala indaka min amril akhirah ma narjuka lahu. And you do not have anything of the akhirah for which I should come and meet you. There is nothing that I should fear you for, and you have nothing of the affair of akhirah that I should come and meet you. Your friendships have to be based on dunya and akhirah. Is your friendship based on amrul akhirah, or is it based on the amr of this dunya? Your decisions. And he continues. This statement is these 4 lines that the Imam wrote. The wealth of information in it. He says, "Wala anta fi ni'matin fanuhanniyaka." Neither are you in a blessing that we should come and congratulate you. Jo khilafat mili hai tumhe, the khilafat that you have, the kingdom that you have, this is not a neema. This is not a blessing that I should come and congratulate you. Wala taraha niqmatan fanu'azzika, and neither do you look at it as a musibah that I should come and condole you. These kind of statements can only come from the Imam of the time. ठीक है ना मैं किसी ऐसे काम में मुब्तला हूं कि जिसकी वजह से तुमने आके आपसे मिलूं, और ना ही आपके पास आखिरत की कोई ऐसी चीज है कि जिसकी खातिर आपसे आके मिलूं, ना ही आप किसी नेमत में हैं जिसकी मुबारकबाद देने के लिए आपके पास आऊं, और ना ही तुम इस खिलाफत को मुसीबत समझते हो कि मैं आके तस्लीयत पेश करूं। तो मुझे आपके साथ मिलकर क्या करना है? There is no match between me and you. He writes back. He says, at least advise me. मुझे नसीहत करें. The Imam writes back. He says, and again this is important, man arada dunya la yansahuka. जो दुनिया का तलबगार होगा वो तुझे नसीहत नहीं करेगा. Whoever wants this dunya will not advise you. وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ لَا يَصْبَحَكَ. और जो आखिरत को चाहता है वो तेरे साथ नहीं बैठेगा. So if somebody wants this dunya, why would he come to this person and advise him to be just and to fulfill the rights of others? जो दुनिया चाहता है वो तुझे नसीहत नहीं करेगा, और जो आखिरत चाहता है वो तेरे साथ नहीं बैठेगा. When he read this letter, he testified to the bartari and fazilat of the Imam by saying, laqad mayyaza indi manazil an-nas. Verily, the Imam has made clear to me the status and levels of the people. He has clearly filtered and separated man yuridu dunya mimman yuridu al-akhirah. He has clearly separated for me those who want dunya and those who want akhirah. And he is not from one of those who wants this dunya. By looking at who is coming to visit him, he could tell that these are people who want the dunya from him. And those who are staying away from him, these are the people who want akhirah, who are after the akhirah. So we will be tested, we are tested, and we will succeed or fail based on the decisions we make in this dunya. That's why you see Nahjul Balagha full of statements condemning this dunya. The way you engage with this dunya, whether you are talib al-dunya or talib al-akhirah. It is the intention with which you engage in this dunya. One of the common mistakes we make, I'll explain that through this story. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asks Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, do you want 60,000 gold coins or 60,000 sheep or 60,000 phrases? क्या चाहिए? 60,000 dinar या 60,000 goosefund या 60,000 kalamat? That is the test. The dunya or phrases, kalimat. The Imam says 60,000 kalimat. मुझे 60,000 kalimat चाहिए. The Holy Prophet said, I'm going to summarize 60,000 phrases in 6 phrases. 6 phrases, 60,000. So you open up each phrase, there's like 10,000 phrases behind each phrase hidden, if it's equally distributed. Imam ne kaha, Rasul Khuda ne mujhe 1000 baab sikhaye. The Holy Prophet taught me 1,000 gates of knowledge, and from each gate I opened another 1,000 gates. 60, and each phrase might have 10,000 phrases hidden behind it. The first phrase, he says, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَشْتَغِلُونَ بِالْفَضَائِلِ فَاشْتَغِلْ أَنْتَ بِالْفَرَائِزِ. If you see people running after fazail and mustahabbat, you engage yourself with the wajibat. In a common mistake we make, the people of Medina made when Imam Hussain ﷺ was leaving Medina or Makkah. People had engaged themselves with the Hajj, where there was a more important wajib for them to perform. वो काबा का तवाफ करते रहे, जबकि हकीकत काबा was leaving Mecca. And we make this mistake a lot, especially the mutadayyineen, the religious people. There's a story of an Arif whose name was Junaid. At the time of Bahlol, the students of this Arif, Junaid, used to tease Bahlol, and they pass comments regarding him, and he realized that the students do not know the reality of Bahlol. So one day he said to his students, let us go and meet Bahlol today. They all went and greeted Bahlol, and they greeted each other, and he said, we have come to learn from you. Teach us something. Bahlol responded, he said, okay, let me ask you a question. Do you know how to speak? So yes, the teacher said, yes, it's so simple. You start saying Bismillah, you end up with this state, and then you start with the Holy Quran, and he mentioned all the etiquettes of speaking. Bahlol turned to his students, what kind of a teacher have you chosen for yourself? He doesn't even know how to speak. And then he ran away. After a few days, they again decided to go and meet him. This time he asked, let me ask you a question. Do you know how to sleep? He said, yes, you do wuzu, and then you read these surahs, and then you sleep on your right hand side or sleep facing the sky. So all the etiquettes of sleep, he mentioned those. He said, what kind of a teacher have you chosen for yourself? He doesn't even know how to sleep. Neither does he know how to speak, nor does he know how to sleep. And he ran away. The third time they again went to him, and this time he said, let me ask you a question. Do you know how to eat? He said, yes, you start with Bismillah, and then you chew the food, and you eat at this time, and then you do not take salt, and drink water at this time, and say Shukran lillah, after you've eating and read this dua. He said, what kind of teacher have you chosen? He doesn't even know how to eat. At that point, Junaid turned to him and he said, yes, you're right. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to sleep. I don't know how to eat. You tell me. Then Junaid said, now that the student has admitted that he does not know, the teacher will teach. The acceptance that you do not know is preparing yourself to learn. And he said, when I asked you what you should say, you mentioned all the etiquettes, but you forgot to tell that you should only speak what is truth, and you should speak with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You forgot that, and you listed all the etiquettes. And when I asked you what to eat, you forgot that you should eat only what is permissible for you, what is halal for you. You mentioned all the etiquettes and forgot the faraiz. And when I asked you how you should sleep, again you mentioned all the etiquettes and forgot that if you're sleeping while you have hurt someone and you're sleeping with all these etiquettes will not benefit you. This is what the Holy Prophet, when you see people engaging themselves with the mustahabat, you, Ya Ali, you engage yourself, alayhi salatu wasalam, you engage yourself with the faraiz. This distinction, and we make these mistakes again and again. Even during our functions of Aza, we forget the main objective behind holding these processions, and then we focus on issues that are not the main purpose, like what is distributed in tabarruk and other things, forgetting the real purpose behind. Or sometimes the metrics that we use to gauge the success of a majlis are not the right metrics. The second statement the Imam says, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ النَّاسِ يَشْتَغِلُونَ بِعَمَلِ الدُّنْيَا. When you see people engaging with the amal of this dunya, فَاشْتَغِلْ أَنْتَ بِعَمَلِ الْآخِرَةِ. When you see people engaging in the amal, in the actions of this dunya, you, Ya Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, you engage yourself in the amal of the akhirah. This is how shaitan is going to deceive us and make us fail the azmaish, the test that we are going through. When the holy Imam reached Karbala, on reaching Karbala, he stated this phrase, An-nasu abidud dunya. People are the servants of this dunya. وَالدِّينُ لَائِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. And religion is only on their lips. One of the reasons why people could not be with the Imam and they left the Imam throughout the journey. In the beginning, he started with a big caravan. It got bigger with time, but then eventually it started to shrink and dwindle. Why? An-nasu abidud dunya. People are the servants of this dunya. وَالدِّينُ لَائِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. And religion is on their lips only. فَإِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَىٰ. When they are tested with bala, قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُونَ. The religious people will be only few. He mentioned that, and it is narrated that whenever he would come down to camp at whatever station he was, he always reminded his companions of the disloyalty of this dunya and those who are after this dunya, because he knew that they will all be tested as things were going to get tougher. Dunya and akhirah. We are making these choices between dunya and akhirah every day in our lives. Imam, in one of the statements, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam says, he says, Sharrun nas man ba'a akhiratahu bidunyah. Sharrun nas, sharir insan, the most wicked person is one who sells his akhirah for the sake of his dunya. He sells his akhirah for the sake of his dunya, like Umar Saad. He sold his akhirah. He gave up his akhirah for the sake of his dunya. The tradition doesn't stop here. It says, وَشَرٌّ مِّن ذَلِكَ, and even more wicked than this person, مَنْ بَاءَ آخِرَتَهُ لِدُنْيَا غَيْرِهِ. Even more wicked than this is the person who sells his akhirah for the dunya of someone else. What a loss. Like all those soldiers in the camp of Yazid who had sold off their akhirah for the dunya of Yazid and Umar Saad and Ibn Ziyad. The decisions we take in our daily lives, we will be tested. And one of the reasons the shaheed is not questioned in the grave, the tradition says, that Allah says, or the malaika says, that he has given the test under the sword. There is no need to test him again. Unka imtihan isi duniya mein ho gaya. Going through this test. The Imam is also going through this test. Even Karbala is one of the tests. If you look at the history of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah in the few days that are left, we might talk about some of the tests the previous prophets had to give and their nations had to give. You will find that all the tests that had happened in the past, you will find them in Karbala. The test of Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam, you'll find in Karbala in the most perfect sense. All other tests, the test of fear, emotional tests. We generally don't talk about these emotional tests that the Imam had to go through. It is said that Imam alayhi salatu wasalam on the day of Ashur and even throughout the journey, especially after reaching Karbala, he was also sensitive to the emotional needs of the children and the women and the companions. In such a state, generally we do not pay attention. We pay attention to the most important battles that we have to fight, not to these delicacies. But he knew he had to talk to the women, how he had to speak to his sister, how he has to speak and deal with the 4-year-old Sakina. He was sensitive towards how he has to deal and talk with the slaves that are with him. Baki logon ke kabile wale, other members, other shohada, they had their family members to mourn over them. But these slaves that were with the Imam, उनका कोई नहीं था. इमाम ही उनके वारिस थे. Al-Imam is the warisa man la warisa lahu, who has no waris, Imam is their waris. तो वही उनके वारिस थे. उन्हीं को उन पे गिरिया करना था. And he fulfilled these emotional needs of the companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. This shows the excellence of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. Yesterday you heard that when John went to the battlefield and he fell, Imam came and lifted him up. And when he opened his eyes and he saw the Imam prayed for him. And hearing the prayers of the Imam, he smiled and he left this world smiling. My teacher was saying that agar unke wo rasa मौजूद होते करबला में और देख लेते कि इमाम किस तरह से इन शोहदा के बालीन पर पहुँचे हैं, इनके सरहाने पहुँचे हैं, तो इमाम से राज़ी हो जाते कि इमाम ने भी अपनी इमामत का हक़ अदा कर दिया. There's another slave by the name of Aslam bin Amr. He's a Turkish slave. When he falls in the battlefield, the Imam rushes to his body as well. The Imam lifts his body. ये तन्हा दूसरा शहीद है जनाब अली अकबर के बाद कि इमाम ने अपने रुखसार को उसके रुखसार पे रख दिया. ये बात आपको जनाब अली अकबर के अलावा और कहीं नहीं मिलेगी. इमाम ने अपने रुखसार को जनाब अली अकबर के रुखसार पे रखा या फिर इस तुर्क गुलाम के रुखसार पे रखा. हर शहीद, the treatment the Imam is giving to each and every shaheed depends on the level and status they were at. ये इमाम अपने इमामत के तकाज़ों को और अपने आजमाइश को पूरा कर रहे हैं. और जब इमाम ने अपने रुखसार को असलम के रुखसार पे रख दिया, تو اسلم نے مسکراہٹ کے عالم میں مسکراتے ہوئے کہا کہ مجھ سے زیادہ اور خوش قسمت کون ہو سکتا ہے؟ Who can be more lucky than me, for the Imam has placed his chin on my chin. Sensitivity اس کا خیال ہے. He did not let the other companions into the battlefield easily. Even when Janab Qasim came to seek permission, you all know the Imam resisted. Till he brought the wasiyat, and then he could not stop. Even then, when Qasim ﷺ was leaving, it is said that this was the most difficult, one of the most difficult times. Imam hugged and embraced Hazrat Qasim, and they both started to cry. And they cried and cried and cried. And they sat down on the sand and they cried. One of the most difficult times. And I wonder کہ جب جناب زینب کے بچے اجازت لینے آئے ہوں گے، جب جناب عون و محمد اجازت لینے آئے ہوں گے، تو امام نے کن جملوں سے روکا ہوگا اور انہوں نے کن جملوں سے اصرار کیا ہوگا. The مقتل does not list any of this. You do not find in history how they sought permission and how the Imam stopped them. ہاں، مقتل میں اتنا لکھا ہے کہ جب عون و محمد کے لاشیں واپس آئے ہیں خیمے میں، تو جہاں امام حسین اپنی سینسٹیویٹیز کو ظاہر کر رہے ہیں، اس موقع پر ثانی زہرا نے اپنے سینسٹیویٹی کو ظاہر کیا. انہوں نے اپنے بھائی کے احساسات کا خیال رکھتے ہوئے کہیں اپنے خیمے سے باہر نہیں آئیں. جب جنازے آئے ہیں عون و محمد کے، تو ثانی زہرا اپنے خیمے کے اندر رہیں، ان کے خیمے کا پردہ نہیں اٹھا. دوسری بیویاں لاشوں کے ارد گرد جمع ہو گئی، امام حسین کو پرسہ دے رہے ہیں. ثانی زہرا خیمے سے باہر نہیں آئیں، جانتی ہیں اگر باہر آؤں گی تو میرے مولا مجھے پرسہ دیں گے، میرے مولا مجھے پرسہ دیں گے. کہیں میرے بھائی کو یہ احساس نہ ہو جائے، کہیں وہ یہ محسوس نہ کرے کہ میری وجہ سے میری بہن کی نسل ختم ہو گئی. اس بنا پر وہ خیمے سے باہر ہی نہ آئیں. جبکہ یہ وہی بہن ہے کہ جب جناب علی اکبر کی شہادت ہوتی ہے تو امام حسین سے پہلے علی اکبر کے جنازے پر پہنچ جاتی ہے، اپنے آپ کو جناب علی اکبر کے جنازے پر گرا دیتی ہے. کہ جب علی اکبر جوان بیٹے کے لاشے پر آئے تو اس سے پہلے کہ بیٹے پہ لاش کے جنازے پر لاش پڑے، مجھ زینب پہ نظر پڑ جائے، شاید مجھ بیٹے سے ان کی توجہ ہٹ کے میری طرف ہو جائے اور وہ شوق ان کو نہ ملے، وہ صدمہ ان کو نہ پہنچے. ہر شہید نے اپنے انداز سے امام سے اجازت چاہی ہے. کسی نے کوئی جملہ کہہ کر، کسی نے تعویذ لا کر، کسی نے وصیت دکھا کر، کسی نے یہ کہہ کر آپ نہیں چاہتے کہ مجھ جیسے غلام کا بدن آپ کے جیسے نورانی بدنوں کے ساتھ مقتل میں پڑا. لیکن مجھے ایک وہ شہید بھی یاد آ رہا ہے جس نے عجیب انداز میں اجازت چاہی ہے. مقتل نے اس کی شہادت یہاں سے شروع کی. کہتے ہیں کہ وہ وقت آیا کہ خیموں سے بیبیاں باہر نکل آئیں، ایک وقت وہ آیا کہ بچے خیموں سے باہر آ جاتے ہیں. غالباً یہ وہ وقت تھا جب میرے مولا زین سے زمین پہ آ چکے ہیں، زین سے زمین پر آ چکے ہیں، دشمن کے نرغے میں ہے. شاید ذوالجناح واپس آیا ہوگا، آ کر خبر دے رہا ہوگا کہ میرے مولا، میرے آقا اب میرے اوپر سوار نہیں رہے. بیبیاں خیمے سے نکلی ہیں. یہ چھوٹا سا بچہ ہے، عبداللہ ابن حسن اس کا نام ہے. 11 یا 12 سال کی عمر ہے. امام حسن علیہ السلام کا ایک اور بیٹا بھی کربلا میں شہید ہوا ہے جس کا نام ہے عبداللہ ابن حسن. یہ اس نے امام کو میدان کربلا میں تنہا دیکھا. امام حسین کو بھی اس حالت میں خیمے کی طرف نگاہیں ہیں، سمجھ گئے بیبیاں باہر آ گئی ہیں. ایک مرتبہ امام نے بیبیوں کو پکار کر کہا واپس خیمے میں چلی جاؤ. سب بیبیاں خیمے میں جانے لگیں. ثانیہ زہرا بھی خیمے میں جانے لگیں. ایک مرتبہ امام کی آواز آئی کہ بہن زینب عبداللہ کو بھی لے جائیے، کہ یہ بچہ احساسات کا غلبہ تھا، امام کی طرف دوڑا چلا جا رہا تھا، مقتل کی طرف دوڑا چلا جا رہا تھا. کہا بہن زینب عبداللہ کو بھی واپس لے جائیے. ثانیہ زہرا نے آگے بڑھ کے بچے کا ہاتھ تھام لیا.
اب بچے کو کھینچ کر خیمے کی طرف لے جا رہی ہے. بچے کو احساس ہو گیا کہ بہہ کے پھوپھی زیادہ طاقتور ہے, مجھے خیمے میں لے جائیں گی. کہا پھوپھی اماں خدا کی قسم میں اپنے چچا کو اکیلا نہیں چھوڑ سکتا. یہ انداز تھا جناب عبداللہ کا اجازت مانگنے کا. یہ جملہ سنا, ثانیہ زہرا نے بچے کا ہاتھ چھوڑ دیا. ثانیہ زہرا نے بچے کا ہاتھ چھوڑ دیا. پھوپھی اماں خدا کی قسم میں اپنے چچا کو تنہا نہیں چھوڑ سکتا. ثانیہ زہرا سے رہا نہیں گیا. اب یہ بچہ دوڑتا ہوا مقتل میں پہنچا, اپنے آپ کو امام حسین کے اوپر گرا دیا. امام حسین کے اوپر گرا دیا. خدا جانے کیا راز و نیاز ہو رہا ہوگا. یہی کہہ رہا ہوگا کہ چچا جان اٹھیے, واپس خیمے میں چلیے. آج تک جو بھی صبح سے اب تک جو بھی مقتل میں آیا ہے واپس نہیں آیا. ہم بچے وعدہ کرتے ہیں اب لتش لتش کی صدائیں بلند نہیں کریں. ہم وعدہ کرتے ہیں لتش لتش کی صدائیں بلند نہیں ہوں گی. ابھی یہ گفتگو ہو رہی تھی کہ ایک ظالم تلوار کو نیام سے نکال کر امام کی طرف حرکت کرنا شروع کرتا ہے. جب اس بچے نے دیکھا کہ ظالم بے ادبی کرنا چاہتا ہے, اس نے تلوار چلائی. ادھر اس بچے نے اپنے دونوں ہاتھوں سے اپنے امام کی حفاظت کی کہ ایک مرتبہ بچے کے دونوں ہاتھ قلم ہو جاتے ہیں. اس بچے کی ایک چیخ بلند ہوتی ہے. یہ چیخ امام حسین نے بھی سنی, یہ چیخ ثانیہ زہرا نے بھی سنی. خدا جانے کس طرح سے اس چیخ کو برداشت کیا ہوگا. خدا کرتا کہ یہیں تک کا معاملہ ختم ہو جاتا, لیکن تاریخ میں لکھا ہے کہ اس ظالم نے پھر اس بچے کو اٹھایا اور امام اور ثانیہ زہرا کے سامنے اس بچے کا سر تن سے جدا کر دیا. لعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین. ماتم حسین.
جانم فدای زینب، 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 جانم فدای زینب. Everyone. جانم فدای زینب، جانم فدای زینب،
جانم فدای زینب، جانم فدای زینب.
O Anjuman-e-Mohammad, O progeny of Ja'far, guarding of Abdullah, you were the sword of Haydar. O Anjuman-e-Mohammad, O progeny of Ja'far, guarding of Abdullah, you were the
sword of Haydar.
We honor your shahadat in this Aza-e Zainab. لبیک بر زبانم، جانم فدای زینب، جانم فدای زینب، جانم
فدای زینب، جانم فدای زینب، جانم فدای زینب.
From Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, Bibi, you brought a revolution with your kalam, Bibi. From Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, Bibi, you
Brought a revolution
with your kalam, Bibi. Hear the reverberations from that Sada Zainab. Labbaik bar zubanam, Janam fidai Zainab. Janam fidai Zainab. Janam fidai Zainab.
جانم فدای زینب جانم فدای زینب
Your piety and iman, your sheer determination, your courage and demeanor, truly an inspiration. Your piety and iman, your sheer determination, your courage and demeanor, truly
an inspiration.
at par with Anbiya is Sabr aur Rida Zainab. Labbaik bar zubanam, Janam fidai Zainab. Janam fidai Zainab. Everyone.
جانم فدای زینب جانم فدای زینب جانم فدای زینب
Say no to every tyrant. Say La ilaha illallah. Say no to fear of dying. Remember inna lillah. Say no to every tyrant. Say La ilaha illallah. Say no to fear of dying. Remember inna lillah. Calling to truth and justice is still Nida Zainab. Labbaik bar zubanam, Janam fidai Zainab. 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 Iqra bi-ismi Rabbik. Read in the name of Allah. The indigent and hungry, feed in the name of Allah. Iqra bi-ismi Rabbik. Read in the name of Allah. The indigent and hungry, feed in the name of Allah. Knowledge and empathy are what signifies Zainab. Labbaik bar zubanam, Janam fidai Zainab. Janam fidai Zainab. Janam fidai Zainab.
جانم فدای زینب جانم فدای زینب
Guarding the holy Rawdah, we are the Shia lions, facing the evil arrows. We are a wall of iron, guarding the holy Rawdah. We are the Shia lions, facing the evil arrows. We are a wall of iron. Until we die, we will shelter ridai Zainab, labbaik bar zubanam, janam fidai Zainab, janam fidai Zainab, janam fidai Zainab, janam fidai Zainab, janam fidai Zainab. We are the sword of Haydar, no army can defeat us. We are the plan of Zahra, no Lucifer can beat us. We are the sword of Haydar, no army can defeat us. We are the plan of Zahra, no Lucifer can beat us. Like oxygen we breathe in, Karbo balai Zainab, labbaik bar zubanam, janam fidai Zainab, 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 janam fidai Zainab. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.